Everyone. I can't see you. Hopefully, you can see me much better than what I'm going to come out with today. Yeah, it's been a long journey. It's been 32 years in the making, and being born in Bangalore, I moved to Coimbatore in 1993, and since then, the world has just opened up. I was a small boy in Bangalore, just an ordinary boy, just like everybody. The difference was that I grew up. As I grew older, I changed. When I was about 6 or 7 years old, I started noticing something in myself, and that was a tic. And the facial tics sort of continued. It just got me going and going, and eventually it just became difficult for me to be a normal kid. Well, when you're not a normal kid, you know that your peers, your friends, although they don't mean harm, really tease you and poke you. That's what happened. That was a learning for me. It was not something that I liked a lot. Obviously, at that age, you get to learn that something new is happening in you, and then people start pointing at you, start making fun of you, and ridiculing you. So that was all part of the fun for them, not for me. And this didn't end with the kids. Mind you, this was way back in the 1970s. Okay, we didn't have as much knowledge of a lot of these things that were happening in the world in general. The medical science had not, to that extent, reached the Indian plethora of knowledge. So it was also evident amongst the elders who felt that I was being a bit of an abnormal kid. An abnormal kid not because it was something in me, but abnormal because it had become a behavioral trait in me. Something that had poked me into making this a habit. And so there are a lot of not very, what do you say? I would say a lack of knowledge made the elders also scold, beat me, and do things that I would not normally like to be done to, especially given the fact that I was already going through a lot of anxiety. So I got away from most of the pressures by myself, and I used to play in the garden all by myself, and that's where I found solace. I used to play with the little critters in the compound, and earthworms were one of my biggest friends. That was some of the best parts of the day. Just to, much later, when I grew up and I became interested in knowing more about this, I realized that this was actually known as, there was some terminology for this, and it was known as the Tourette's syndrome. I don't know how many of you have actually heard of this. Okay. How many of you watched the Hindi movie Hichki? That was, I think, about 7-8 years back. Rani Mukherjee acted in that movie, and the movie actually brought out quite a bit of this. Not in its entirety, because it's very difficult to bring out the entire spectrum of this behavior, but some of it, which is very close to what happened to me also. So when I learned more about this, I realized that it's actually two things that may make a person who has Tourette's syndrome show. One is the facial tic, a motor tics. It could be facial, it could be in the limbs, it could be anywhere in the body. And the other one is vocal tics. Both of these are either simple or complex. One of the vocal tics that I used to commonly do, and I still do, is it's actually a whistle. When I'm not using this, it's much clearer, and that comes out very, very often, even till late. So what is the reason for this? It's to do with genetics. It's also misfiring of the brain in various different parts of the brain. Our brains are well coordinated. Our motor, our neurons, our nervous system is very well coordinated with the brain. Only with people who have Tourette's, the brain fires at different times, involuntarily. And because of that, a lot of these things also happen. And it's also, because of imbalance of neurotransmitters and everything else associated with these different firing mechanisms, you get different kinds of ways in which this pans out in different individuals. So you have multiple motor tics, or at least one vocal tic, to classify somebody as with a Tourette syndrome. The tics should occur several times in a day. Only then it's understood that the person is a Tourette's patient. It starts before the age of 18. For me, it started at the age of 6 or 7. And the symptoms are not caused by medication or any of those things. It starts off. But the Tourette's syndrome is not in and by itself an independent system. It comes with a whole lot of other deficiencies or debilitations. Obsessive compulsive disorder was one of the biggest things that people who have Tourette's undergo. Well, of these 5, I have 4. I have OCD. I used to have attention deficiency and hyperactivity disorder. Perhaps sometimes even now and then I get it now, but I've been able to work. Anxiety used to happen a lot as a kid, definitely. You don't know how to cope with the system, with the society, with your friends. And then learning disorders, a lot of different kinds of learning disorders. And of course, sleep disorder for some people. That was one good thing that did not affect me. So anytime that I was bullied or mistreated, so to say, I would just go and sleep. And I could sleep any time of the day. Thankfully, I still can. So for me, a lot of these debilitating things became issues that I had to really get over. And as a kid growing up, when you are down, you don't have many of your friends who understand you. They, with their lack of knowledge, they only put you even further down. Not really wanting to, but that's how kids are, right? I'm sure most of you kids are also like that. Without meaning to, you put your friends down. Or without meaning to, your friends put you down. So it's part of life. So I didn't have many friends, but yet I did have some friends who were really understanding. So it did help to some extent. But my issues were of memorization, okay, and recall. So when I make a presentation, I do not actually write up anything. I do not memorize a script so that I can speak to you. It always comes out of a lot of practice, and I'll tell you how I did that. It also is the inability to focus on lyrics. So any song, I couldn't actually focus on what was being actually sung. And then other debilitating actions from OCD would mean that when I was writing at school, when I was putting a full stop somewhere, for example, not all full stops, but some of the full stops, I would be forced, my mind would force me to press on that full stop to the extent that it would break the pencil. And the other thing was to outline images. So if I looking at a car, for example, I was forced to outline it. So there were a lot of such, really debilitating things when I was growing up. It all changed when I was in seventh grade, when I just passed out of seventh grade. I went to Idutpuri in Maharashtra, and there I met a slightly older girl. Maybe she was in her 10th, and she happened to have this very nice outlook to life. She did not make fun of me, and we spent a lot of time together. And I learned from her how to be in life. So until then, I was really subdued. But those 2 months of interacting with her, I just became a completely changed personality. So when I went back to high school, 8th standard, my friends could not recognize me because it was like black and white. It was, day and night in terms of how I had changed. The coping mechanisms that I learned from her were to actually, sorry, excuse me, my throat has been hurting since yesterday. So the coping mechanisms were a lot of humor, bring in a lot of humor into whatever I said, in however I looked at life. Create empathy, be very empathetic. That's something that I learned. Because if something were to happen to me, why should I let the same bad things happen to somebody else? I used to watch a lot of movies, and I still do. And I learned to make fun of myself. And that was the biggest thing that made me get over the problems that I had with people. And it built a lot of resilience in me. I started recalling, because of memory issues, I started recalling by association. How did I do that? By fixing on some root word and associating that root word with something else, something usually funny, something not usually liked by others, but it was enough for me to recall it. I used to focus on the music and not the lyrics, and I still do. And just built sheer determination, wanted to get out of that debilitating self, wanted to make a better self in myself. And so I started looking at the sane part of my mind and started controlling the insane part of my mind, which had a lot of different other beautiful things that happened to me. It brought in self-confidence. And of course, it brought in a lot of rational thinking. That was a big game changer. And then the biggest hurdle. Do you call it a hurdle? Do you teenagers call this 12th standard or 12th grade a hurdle? You might not, but I did consider it a hurdle because the 12th boards were one of the biggest challenges that I had. Again, with all of this and then going to the 12th, how I even went to that is a surprise to me sometimes, but the coping mechanisms helped me. I was not interested in engineering, okay? It was just not my call. I was really not into it at all. Although I used to work in my father's fabrication unit, and I knew everything from welding to turning to all the different things that you do in a fabrication unit in an engineering's workshop. I was not interested in engineering. I was interested in medicine, but I was not sure because of my own limitations. I said, but no, that was not really my cup of coffee there. But I was definitely interested in science. So I went on to do my bachelor's in chemistry, botany, and zoology, and then did my master's in zoology, both from Bangalore University. And then came the big shift. So when I was doing my bachelor's and master's, also 11th and 12th, in Bangalore, it's called PUC, first year and second year PUC. 7 years, there was the zoology lab that I used to attend every week. And in the zoology lab in those days, we used to dissect live frogs. Okay? We used to work with frogs. So I was one of the only bravest ones in my class to take them out of the jar and pit them and hand it over to my friends. And they would all dissect it, but with great reluctance. And I was very happy sort of, catching frogs. So this is one of the most famous frogs that we used to have then, Rana hexadactyla, it used to be called then, and was the most dissection preferred frog. But we would not always get this frog. We would get different kinds. We'd get different kinds of species. I'm also showing you these pictures to show you that there are beautiful things out there. There are many kinds of different frogs that we used to get in the lab, and not all of them were dissection friendly. So I followed the person on Mr. Thomas who used to supply frogs. And so I started following him occasionally to see where he used to get the frogs from. And when I did this in the from first year PUC or 11th standard till my second year masters, 7 years I followed him occasionally, not every week. He used to be the main supplier of frogs to all the zoology labs in Bangalore. The frogs that he used to collect used to occur very close to the Bangalore city. And as time progressed, the collections went beyond the city, went nearly 40 kilometers away from the city. And their numbers also decreased. So this triggered my curiosity. I said, if frogs are so common, why are they disappearing? Why isn't Thomas getting more frogs? What's wrong? And so that inspired me to look at things further. And that's when I joined Zoo Outreach Organization. Zoo Outreach Organization was started 40 years ago by Sally Walker, an American lady who came to India to learn yoga and Sanskrit in Mysore. And then she went one day to Mysore Zoo, and the moment she picked up a tiger cub, her entire life changed, and she set up Zoo Outreach Organization, and I joined her in 1993. So we are into conservation of species, livelihoods, and ecosystems. So I was the first conservationist, a wildlifer in a family of engineers. All my cousins, all my friends, most of my classmates became engineers. Some of them, of course, became other things also, including doctors and lawyers and business administrators. But I was the odd guy out. But in working at Zoo Outreach Organization, realized when I started compiling information on amphibians, I was responsible also with a global community of amphibian biologists to assess the status of amphibians of the world. When we realized that more than 40% of amphibians are threatened around the world. And when we did the assessment for the first time, there were about 5,500 odd species. Now there are more than 7,500 species. More than 300 species of those amphibians had actually gone extinct because of various reasons. And those reasons included habitat loss, pollution, chytric fungus, fungal diseases that impacted a lot of amphibians, drove them to extinction. Climate change, which we are all undergoing right now. So all these were just the tip of the iceberg. And this made me realize that we need to actually start working for their conservation. And amphibians are very good indicators because they live both on land and in water. And they inform the health of both land and water. And because they breathe both through their nostrils and through their skin, they take in a lot of exchange of gases happen. And that is a very unique system that most of the other animal groups do not have. And so amphibians are really the indicators of our environmental health or our ecosystem health. So, and then after about 12 years in a Zoo Outreach Organization, I registered for a PhD and I worked on small mammals of Coorg in the Western Ghats. And I got my PhD in 2010. So I was about 40 years old at that point in time. So something to indicate that you can become a PhD or you can continue with your academics any time of your life. You don't have to just stop just because you've gotten out of college, that you stop your studies. Keep an open mind, you can always work. And so that was one of the learnings that because I pushed myself into doing it, I even got a PhD. So a lot of realities hit me. One is that life originated in salt water. How many of you know this? That life originated in salt water about 4.2 billion years ago. Okay? And we are a product of that many years of evolution. So if I say that I'm 57 years old, in reality, I'm actually 4.2 billion years old because of one continuous line of connection from the very first replicating molecule to all the things that have evolved to me is one long stretch, and it's with each one of us here. And so we are all that old. Everything we eat is species. Can you give me one example that we eat that is not species? So our entire lives are dependent on other species. And because we are carbon-based, we eat carbon-based species, and everything that we eat is carbon-based, except for two things, that is water and salt, that we consume. And those are the only two non-carbon-based molecules or compounds that we consume every day that is not species. That's because life itself originated in salt water. Okay? So we have undone what evolution has done for 4.2 billion years. We are undoing it right now. In just about 200 to 250 years, we have created such a complex situation on Earth that 1 in 4 species is actually facing a threat of extinction. Again, because of habitat loss, of pollution, overfishing, invasive species, wildlife trade, climate crisis, everything is impacting them. And what is impacting? The species that we are dependent on is what we are impacting. It's like literally, killing the golden goose, right? We are literally doing that. So we have all these different things, the species loss, the habitat destruction, the continuous resource extraction. We do it on a basis that is unsustainable and is increasing day by day. Industrialization, population growth, everything is going. And what is it leading to? It's leading to air pollution, water pollution, bad food that we get nowadays, uncertain weather, and a lot of climate crisis. And the climate crisis by itself feeds into all of these things again, more and more. So we've set up a positive feedback loop for species extinction and habitat destruction by creating this climate crisis. And so we are caught up in this vortex of extinction. And who can get us out of this extinction? It's on ourselves. Only we can get out of us. We can help the system get out of this extinction vortex. And so this is a call for those of you who are interested in biology or in anything to do with science or anything to do with conservation, with wildlife, with animals, with plants. Please understand that there are more careers available. You can actually do fantastic by working for the natural system. You can become a wildlife biologist. You can become an environmental scientist. You can become a park ranger, the forest department, marine biologist, of course, naturalist. You can become an educator or a photographer. So many different things. And this is just the tip of the iceberg again. There are so many opportunities available for those of you who really want to explore yourself and go out there into a new world. Why? Because we need wildlife heroes. Without wildlife heroes, we have no planet to live in. It's not just for us, it's for future generation also. We need a planet to live in. And this is the only planet that we can thrive in, that we can live in. It is habitable. No matter what Elon Musk says, you cannot go to Mars. If you have all the technology to terraform Mars, why not use that technology to form our Terra here? Yeah. So think about it. There's so much opportunity out there. We need to live like we lived before. We need diversity in ourselves. We need a diversity of culture, of people, of biodiversity. Okay? I want to see that happy young boy playing with earthworms once again. Now when I go and dig a soil anywhere, not just in Bangalore, in Coimbatore, anywhere, I hardly come across an earthworm, which used to be all over the place when I was a kid. I want that back. And only when I find that back will the earth be a better place to live in. So what I learned is that nothing is unsurmountable. You can actually do anything you want to do in life. Okay? Not everything is lost. And guys, teenagers and the young people on this thing, life is not a bitch. Okay? There's a lot you can do. And there is so much now available for you guys that it's not a dead end. Okay? Not everything that happens is bad or terrible. So please do not berate yourselves. The only choice that we can make is to make a better future. And that is a choice only we can make as individuals. So again, it's up to us. I have shifted it on to you, but the thing is, I actually ran through all of this. And that's why I know. And I'm saying it out of experience. So all the different, the introduction that was given of me may sound high funda, but I went through a life that was really not very high funda. Okay, so just go out there. Don't conquer the world. You're not here to conquer the world. You are here to work with it. Please do not think that you are the greatest. Okay, the world is the greatest and we are just one part of it. And just understanding that will make us better human beings and will help us save our planet and its living systems. And for whom? For us, for the biodiversity, and for our next generation. So one of the things that I can do, and you noticed, is that I haven't expressed any of my facial tics, right? So I have the ability to control myself. But the point is, with Tourette's, is that with the ability comes a backlash. With the ability to hold myself for some time comes with a backlash, which means that I'll have to retire and do this for the next 5-10 minutes to get out of me holding myself not to do it. Thank you all for listening to me. Wonderful.